Hi everybody, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and I'd like to wish Richard Boo a happy belated birthday. I apologize that it's a day late. I didn't realize it was his birthday until well after I was gone, not in the house for the day, so I wasn't able to do a video to say happy birthday. But Richard, happy birthday. I hope you had a wonderful day, and I hope the whole week is great, year. And this is kind of inspired by Richard also, this video, because in my last couple of videos when I was doing the Minchiates and I was comparing them to one another, I think I had 6 Minchiates out. I actually realized I had 7, but I forgot that I had the 7th one. But I was comparing 6 Minchiates, and there was a lot of, there were a few rabbit holes that I suggested you could go down. One of them being like the pictures on the card of like the Two of Batons, for example. We have an image of a human above with a feather or something, and then what I thought was a fox and a stork. Now my brain thought maybe it's an Aesop's fable, but it didn't see. I don't know. I didn't say anything, but some of you I saw on social media and came back privately to me to verify, yes, there is a Aesop's fable with the fox and the stork, which reminded me of a deck that I bought close to 30 years ago in Philadelphia, which of course is an old town in the United States, right? It has a lot of history. And when my children were little, I used to take them on like picnic excursions. We'd pack up a lunch and we'd get the train and we'd go from Jersey to Philly, and we'd have lunch at like Washington Square or Washington Park. I think it's called Washington Square. And then I would take them on the usual little tours. We'd go see Benjamin Franklin's grave. We'd go to the Betsy Ross house. There were a few other places that I would just take them. It was a fun day. And we would do that a couple times this summer, every summer. And at any rate, the tangent that I just went off on is one of the times when we went to the Betsy Ross house, I think it was the Betsy Ross house, I found this deck of cards, which is of course a reproduction, but they were selling it as a novelty. And it's a deck of like Aesop's Fables in a playing card deck. So I bought it because I collected cards. At that time I was already collecting all kinds of cards, playing cards, tarot cards. And I just kept it all these years. And it's got, I don't know if it's got every Aesop's fable, but it's got a lot of Aesop's fables. So whenever I'm like looking to verify or look up a Aesop's fable, I usually will pull out this deck to see. And sure enough, I found a card for the fox and the stork, and the image on the fox and the stork of the Aesop's fable card is similar in that it's got the stork, a fox, and some kind of long-necked vase. Now, the interesting thing is that in this card, it's the Two of Batons, and in this card, it's I guess the Knight of, or the Jack of Batons. It's not the King, because it's not seated, and although it does have a crown, so maybe it must be the King. I guess it's either the King or the Jack. I don't know which one it is in that card, but here it's clearly not a court card. So the interesting thing is that what I was hoping to do is to see if, they would both have been the same card, because maybe there's a history of the stork and the fox, being on the same, playing card, or the same pip card. But in this case, one's a pip and one's a court card, so I don't know. And let me see if I can find a monkey, because there were a lot of monkeys. Now, I know it was fashionable to own monkeys. I think there were people who own monkeys, even if you watched like Sunset Boulevard, you know, the old throwback lady, you know, she had, you know, the eccentric old lady, she still was a throwback to old days where like having a monkey was kind of like a thing, an elitist kind of thing. And let me see if I can find any kind of story about a monkey. Okay, well, I found only one card referencing an ape or a monkey in the Aesop's deck. Here's a picture of it representing the Ace of Diamonds. It's called the Ape and Fox. Now, it's written in the Old English, so bear with me. The ape implores the fox her bum to veil with a small portion of her useless tail. But he replied, though me no good 'twill do, I shall not spare an inch to favor you. And then it gives the moral of that, and it says, thus the ill-natured rich reserve their store and please themselves to fee their neighbors poor. So I'll tell you the truth, I don't really understand what they're saying, but it's the only card that I saw that had a monkey in the Aesop's cards. Now, just because it's the only one doesn't mean there aren't any other Aesop stories that had apes or monkeys. It's just that in this particular deck that I have of Aesop's cards, it's the only card there is. And there is no title card. You know, I mean, I'm pristine. You know, this deck is like easily 30 years old. And I kept it, you know, in perfect condition. And there is no like title card or anything that said that this was Aesop's deck or anything like that. So I just kept it as I got it. And the packaging it was in was just like paper that was just tied around with a string. So that was it. But, you know, if you ever want to know an Aesop's fable, if you don't happen to have a book, which I don't either, I just always refer to this deck. And then, you know, if I find it, you know, it's in there. In fact, this is probably what I used way back when I was looking at this deck a long time ago. Probably, you know, my memory served me that it probably was an Aesop's fable, but I just didn't say it on the last video. But, you know, every now and then, you know, when I go through this deck, and I probably go through it once or twice a year just to look at it again, you know, you see some interesting things like the old man in death, and there's a card of a skeleton with an arrow and a bundle of kindling on the ground and an hourglass and an old man. And it's kind of uncanny for the Six of Diamonds. I mean, not that it has anything to do with the Six of Diamonds, but I mean, the image is kind of uncanny. And the moral of this one, for any of you who are interested, an aged man whose shoulders bowed beneath almighty load, in anguish called for death. Death straight approached, talking his command, cried only, sir, to lend your helping hand. Moral of the story is, though wrecked with various pains, yet life still pleases much more than death, who all our sorrow eases. But anyway, it made me think of like death meeting the, you know, the hermit, you know, or something like that. Because the imagery isn't all that different. I mean, there's individual elements. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. And then there were, let's see, what other cards there might have been that might prompt me to. Yeah, just like monkeys looking in mirrors. Vanity, perhaps. And this particular deck is the Etruria by Il Meneghello. And there's a couple with stags. There's a unicorn and a monkey. I didn't see any unicorn cards in the Aesop's, but let me see if I can find one. Okay, in this Aesop's deck, there are no unicorns, but I'll tell you what, there are a lot of wolf and fox images, turtles, hares. So But, you know, these early decks could have been cross-referencing several things that, you know, not necessarily just Aesop's, of course, and just other things that at the time that the audience would have been playing with these decks, they would more readily recognize what they were taught, what was being referenced than we do. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that. Until next time, friends, peace and stay well.